Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1989 cartoon special, Garfield's Thanksgiving. Now, before I go any further, or before I even start talking about this special, I want to give a special shout out yet again to a good friend of mine named Jonathan, for requesting another video. And you know the drill. If there's another TV show, film, or topic that you would like to see me discuss, just check the video description down below. The links are going to be down there for you. And I want to say, uh, I hope everyone had a wonderful and great Thanksgiving. And I want to wish everybody a great rest of their week. Um, and now let's get into talking about this special. So, this special was directed by Phil Roman, who directed a large majority of the other Garfield specials. And just like the other Garfield specials, the direction is good. It's fine for the kind of special that it is. Since it's a Thanksgiving special, in a lot of ways, it plays out a little bit more like an extended episode of a segment from Garfield and Friends. It's not like the Halloween adventure where you get some really different sort of shots or framing for the animation. It's very I wouldn't say rudimentary, but it's very simple and plain. But I think that fits for a Thanksgiving special. I still feel that for the most part the direction is still very hearty. It still has the same uh, amount of energy that a lot of the other specials did that were directed by Phil Roman. And overall, it's not something that's gonna fill you up with eye popping or dazzling direction when it comes to animation, but for this kind of special, for the story that it's trying to tell, for the simplistic nature of everything, it fits just fine. Now, the special was written by Jim Davis and Kim Campbell, and this one, it really doesn't have much of a plot. But then again, neither does a lot of the other specials. But this is definitely one of the specials that is, I would say, the most threadbare plot wise. Because a lot of it is just John uh, getting Liz to go on a date with him on Thanksgiving. He doesn't know how to cook, so then he calls his grandmother uh, to come over and salvage his mess. And it's him getting to know Liz more, and the two starting to kind of, at the very least, consider uh, a potential relationship with one another. Liz is able to see the sweeter, kinder side of John as well as Garfield, and she's more open to being with him by the end of the special. But that's really what a lot of it is. It's just more about John trying to impress Liz on a date on Thanksgiving, him being John, being a dip, uh, screwing up and not remembering to put on his pants, so he shows up at the door with boxers on, or him boring her to death with all of these long-winded historical discussions about the history of Thanksgiving. You get this stuff with Garfield and Odie. Garfield gets put on a diet by the vet. He freaks out about going to the vet at the start of the episode and tries to trick John into thinking that it's Thanksgiving, but John is surprisingly not tricked by that, considering how much of a dip he is. But instead, he takes Garfield with him shopping for Thanksgiving food and tries to cook, but it's a disaster. Garfield doesn't help by adding a ton of garlic powder to the vegetables because he's mad and he's moody because he got put on a diet. There's stuff involving Odie being a diet monitor who's like watching Garfield and will like blow a whistle if Garfield tries to cheat on his diet. There's even a scene where Garfield gets on the scale and the scale insults him and calls him Orson Welles and makes some Citizen Kane references and jokes. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in the special that's kind of what you expect with a Garfield special, which is fine. Uh, it allows Lorenzo Music to have a lot of prime moments for some put downs. Like this definitely has some really funny, really witty put downs that Garfield has throughout the special, and I like the addition of the grandmother. The grandmother, I felt was a pretty fun character. Her entrance was set up in a really uh, interesting way. She shows up on a motorcycle, has a motorcycle helmet on, and I just like the overall way that character was written. She seemed to be a lot of fun and provided a different sort of dynamic to things than what you get with John when it comes to his dynamic with Garfield. Um, so I like that, and it is a special though that definitely does lack when it comes to like the musical numbers. A lot of these Garfield specials have some really good songs in them, some really good music. The music here is pretty forgettable and kind of generic. So I will say that's a bit of a letdown when it comes to this special. But, it's got its heart in the right place. It ends on a good note with a nice Thanksgiving dinner that, yes, John didn't cook himself, his grandmother did, but it's still a nice Thanksgiving dinner anyway. And Garfield and Odie are stuffed so much they could barely move. So it's definitely something that evokes a lot of the Thanksgiving spirit. Um, so I feel that it definitely is something that's very at home. It has this very homey vibe and feel to it, which is very fitting for a Thanksgiving special. But there are other holiday specials that Garfield did that I like a lot more. Like this isn't on the same level as a Halloween special or even the Christmas special, or even some of the other specials that weren't even necessarily holiday themed. But it was still definitely worth a watch. And a big part of that is maybe not necessarily the the animation or the story, but of definitely the voiceover cast. I mean, once again, Lorenzo Music is just really marvelous. Just a lot of fun voicing Garfield. Just the perfect deadpan. Just as charming as ever. Thom Hughes is also really solid as John. Uh, Greg Berger does his good work as usual as Odie. I really like Julie Payne as Liz. She has a great deadpan all of her own. And I enjoyed the voiceover work by Pat Carroll as well as Grandma. So good voice cast. The music, like I said, not really as good as the other ones by Lou Rawls and Desiree Goyette. Um, it was just there for me. It wasn't like really hard to listen to or anything. Like it wasn't something that was like painful to listen to. It wasn't like anything of that sort. It just wasn't really that memorable. It wasn't really anything that really made you want to sing along. It was just kind of there. Now, it has like a runtime of about like 24 minutes. And I will admit there are a couple moments where it drags a little bit. And I think in large part it's because there are some bits in this special where there's not a ton going on, or the stuff that is happening isn't as creative as it could be. I feel the book adaptation was actually better. In fact, I remember the book adaptation. I remember reading that. Uh, I actually think I used to read that quite a bit, actually. I think I might have had a copy of it. And so I remember a lot more going on. So when I saw the animated special again for the first time in a long time, I was like, wait a second. Uh, this isn't as clever or as inventive as I remember it being, because in the book adaptation, Garfield does so much more worse stuff to sabotage John. He adds dish detergent, excuse me. I don't know why I can't say that word. I guess it's a tongue twister for me. So he adds detergent to the vegetables, salt to the pumpkin pie. He does this whole thing where he's like, "Oh, the devil is making me do it," and then Garfield actually is feeling remorse, and he feels bad after he sees what happened to the food after he's taken off the diet. Um, there's even some stuff early on where instead of the scale humiliating Garfield, and that's like the majority of that early on in the special. In the book adaptation, Garfield is just being ignored by John because John is so happy about having Liz over for Thanksgiving. And more of John's ruined Thanksgiving is ultimately shown in the book. The sabotaged vegetables, they're bubbling from the detergent, the turkey didn't thaw at all, the pie is burnt. And John is the one that decides to call grandma without Garfield offering him that idea, which is what happens in the special. And I honestly like it better that John is the one that comes up with that idea because it helps him as a character, makes it so he's not a total dipstick. And then the ending is different. There's no mention of diets. Odie and Garfield they are just sitting there with their full bellies, and John sees Liz out the door, and they thank Grandma. And I actually like that ending better too. Instead of doing this whole thing where Garfield is making Odie do push-ups, and I do. I genuinely feel the book adaptation is a little bit better than the adaptation that was ultimately utilized for the special. I wonder if it was based on an earlier draft or something of the script, and then they changed some stuff for the version that was ultimately released. But I still liked it. It was still charming. It still was, fulfilling and filling enough. It wasn't something that I'm gonna wanna immediately decide to go for seconds for, but I still enjoyed watching it, and these specials always they're always worth watching. They are in a lot of ways a reminder of a simpler time, when I was a kid watching Garfield, and so there definitely is a certain nostalgia associated with it, and especially around Thanksgiving, like that's definitely something that's worth watching. Puts you in the right mood, for Thanksgiving and everything that it entails. Um, but yeah, that's just my thoughts on Garfield's Thanksgiving, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.